What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Grayson here from Straw Hat Speculator. Today, guys, we're gonna do another booster box tier video. Somebody requested that I do this again just because the prices have skyrocketed since the last time we did this. And I'm actually going to throw a couple curveballs at you guys in this video. And before we start, I do want to say there are a couple important considerations I'm going to take in when I do this ranking. The first is I'm looking at this with a 5-year outlook. That means I don't care what happens in 2026, 2027 with these boxes, 28, 29, 30, 2031. That is the goal time frame for this ranking. Also, I'm going to assume that the One Piece TCG is still around in 5 years because obviously if the game goes under, that's going to affect almost everything on the list. And then finally, I'm going to assume that Bandai is going to operate reasonably well when it comes to reprints. So keep all of that in consideration. 5-year outlook, that the TCG will still be around in 5 years, and that Bandai is not just going to print 1 or 2 sets into the ground and absolutely destroy the value, and that they're also not going to go back and just reprint like Romance Dawn for some random reason, right? So those are all the caveats. Let's get into the video. Starting off, Romance Dawn Blue Bottom booster boxes. I'm going to put this somewhere in mid-tier right now. If you guys didn't see, the tiers are 2 Legends, Trash, Mid, Cracked, and Goated. This might move by the end of the ranking. I'm just going to put it here for now, and then when I'm organizing my thoughts going through this, we might move some things. These Blue Bottom booster boxes, they are up to around probably, I don't know, 5.1K at this point on TCG Player fairly consistently, and there are a lot of them moving on a daily basis. This is 5 sales just from today, and there might have even been more. I'm not logged in, so I can't actually see. We have a listing here at 6,000. I think it's only a matter of time before these blue bottom booster boxes begin to move again. And same thing with the white bottom booster boxes, which if you guys haven't paid attention, we did have some sales today. 4 boxes sold at $19.80 per box. And we also had a sale come in over the last hour or so at $1,729. So blue bottom, somewhere in the middle. I think now that it's pushing 5K, it's not going to be for a lot of you. You really have to be building a large position in One Piece to even consider the blue bottoms. And even if you do want to grab some of these, there's probably going to be a lot of boxes that outperform the blue bottoms. So somewhere in the middle, I think there is some utility in having it, but for most people, probably not going to be worth it. The white bottoms, same sort of deal. I feel they are getting up there in price. I think there probably will be better options in the future. Romance Dawn also isn't the deepest set that we've had in One Piece. All that said, though, I do think you have to give it some level of respect, and I do think it is going to start moving again in the short term, considering everything else is moving. I'm going to put it in front of the blue bottom for now, in mid-tier. We might move some stuff towards the end of the video, so again, this isn't permanent, but for now, I am happy with it there. Now after that, Paramount War, you guys know I'm not really a huge fan of a lot of these earlier sets. There isn't a ton of value that you can get out of here outside of the Ace manga. I'm going to put it in trash, and again, I'm not saying it's trash, that's just what I labeled the tier, but it's definitely not going to be one of the better performing sets in my eyes. Even though it's one of the older ones, there's still a decent amount of supply out there, all things considered. And just because there aren't a ton of chase cards in it, I don't think you can put it much higher than there on the list. Now, after that, we do have Pillars of Strength, and this is going to be probably the first curveball I throw at you guys. I'm going to put Pillars of Strength in mid. And I know someone is probably watching this losing their mind right now, but hear me out, guys, okay? I'm starting to change my mind on Pillars of Strength. I was looking today on eBay, on TCG Player, on Card Market, doing a little bit of math, and you guys can go try this as well at home if you're watching. Go look at how many boxes of Pillars of Strength you can actually find on the open market and do the math. Add up the total market cap available. You are going to realize really fast that if somebody came in with, let's say, even low 6 figures, honestly, but high 6 figures for sure, they could corner the market on a box like this incredibly easily. And I'm not saying it's a great set. I think that in terms of just the chase cards inside of a set, this is F tier in One Piece. Nothing good. Soga King as the manga card is an absolute letdown as well. Sure, you have the Luffy wanted poster, the other wanted posters, but Pillars of Strength, just no impressive chase cards in there. But just because the box is so scarce, I'm starting to change my tune on some of these, because I wouldn't be surprised in the future if someone tries to make a play and corner the market on Pillars of Strength. And I think for that reason alone, if you're building, I mean, these boxes are getting up there in price as well, guys. If you haven't paid attention, they're over $500 on TCG Player, but realistically, they're probably like $700 boxes now. But yeah, continuing to move up in price. And I think for that reason, if you are building a position over a couple $1,000s and you have one of these boxes already, probably worth holding on to, in my opinion, at this point. Now, Kingdoms of Intrigue, I think there is a little bit more supply out there compared to Pillars of Strength, but I'm going to put this in front of Paramount War now. And the only reason I'm doing that is because the Boa SP. That's literally my only reason. Sabo manga, probably not as good as the Ace manga, but Boa SP, everybody goes crazy for Boa. That reason alone, I'm going to put it in front of Paramount War, but I'm still not super high on any of these sets. I just think that Pillars of Strength, it is an interesting conversation to have just based on that potential buyout scenario. Now, before we go on and look at Awaken the New Era, I did want to jump in here and say if you guys are enjoying the content, I'd really appreciate if you leave a like on the video. It helps out a ton getting these videos pushed out to more people. I do also have links to my market spreadsheet and consultations if you guys are looking to take your investing more seriously in 2026. When I started out investing, I made so many mistakes. I wasted a ton of time and, more importantly, a ton of money. So my job when working with you guys is to make sure that you don't make those same mistakes and you don't waste a ton of time and a ton of money. So thank you guys so much if you are supporting the channel. I appreciate you all being here. Now, getting into Awaken the New Era, this is probably one of the most asked about booster boxes at this point. OP05, it's fairly old at this point, over 2 years of age. Box is selling for around $1,000 on TCG Player now. Considering it's a 5-year outlook, considering the fact that I don't think Bandai is going to go back and reprint OP05, it's a fairly low chance. I'm putting it in cracked. Yes, I think long-term OP05, you still have a ton of growth here. The top 10 value, still what, $10,000 in that range. You also have the Gear 5 Luffy manga in there, the Oda signature card. And then you have the Law manga, you have the Kid manga, the Nami SP. Like, the set is much deeper than just the 2 top chase cards. And for all of those reasons, you have to put some respect on Awakening of the New Era. After that, though, Wings of the Captain, this is kind of mid-tier in my eyes now, guys. I'm not going to lie. I like the Zoro manga. It's got a place in my heart. I pulled it. I love the SPs in this set as well. The Rebecca, the Buggy, obviously is beautiful, but I don't think I can put it much higher than mid-tier, and I don't really even know where I want to put it in the mid-tier. Maybe something like this in front of Pillars of Strength. I think that's fine. The box will probably do fairly well. There is a decent amount of supply out there. You know, compared to a lot of the other sets that we're talking about in this video, Wings of the Captain is plentiful on the secondary market, like eBay, TCG Player. It sells fairly consistently, which is a good point, but I think the fact that the manga is one of the higher PSA populations and that there just isn't a ton of other super valuable chase cards, I'm going to leave it somewhere in the mid tier. Now after that, EB01, I'm going to put this in mid as well, but I'm actually going to put this fairly high on the list. I don't know if I want to put it in front of Blue Bottoms. I think I might just leave it here for now. Kind of the same reasoning with Pillars of Strength. Go out on eBay, TCG Player, Card Market, add up the available market cap that you could buy of EB01 right now. It's really not that high. It would be fairly easy for someone to come along and buy out EB01. Now, am I a fan of the cards inside the set? I think the Chopper manga is great, don't get me wrong, but outside of that, really nothing desirable, fairly similar to Pillars of Strength. So it really is just a scarcity play, and I also don't think that this is going to be a box that most people should buy. If you're building a $1,000 position, does not make sense to spend 80% of that on an EB01 box, in my opinion. If you're building a 6-figure position, 7-figure position, which I know a couple of you guys are, then probably worth picking up some EB01. But yeah, for everyone else, probably worth avoiding at this point. OP07, next up, the waifu set Boa Hancock manga. Really nothing too crazy in the set outside of that card. I feel just intuitively it should probably be somewhere in the trash tier. Do I want to put it behind Paramount War and Kingdoms of Intrigue? Probably not. I think there's some decent SPs in here. These are all really close though, in my opinion. I'm not a huge fan of the set. Just not a ton of value in here outside of that boa. We can actually come in here real quickly and look at this. I do think the Onami's great. I like the boa alt art. The Dofi SP is solid as well. But again, these are all fairly cheap cards. The Onami's 300, the boa parallel, you're already under $100. So only 2 cards over $100 in the set. Not really that great in my opinion. We'll leave it in the 4th tier. I think that's fine. You could probably make an argument it's one of the cheaper boxes. Maybe you want to put a little higher in 5 years, but for me, I'm happy putting it there. Now, next up, we have 2 Legends, which it should go without saying. It's going in the 2 Legends tier. I am not a fan of this set. If you're buying it at $70, $80 a box, congrats. Like, you've made good money. You had literally 0 downside at that price. You've almost made 100% return over the past year, which is awesome, by the way. Like 100% return on any investment in a year is great. You can see here, by the way, a lot of these boxes getting bought out today, a sale of 10 and then a sale of 30 boxes at $160. And look, we're still up at 160. That is devastation. And I'm curious to see how many boxes. They have 38 still left in stock. Couple more at 160. If you go into the second page here, then we're moving up to like 165, 168, 170. There's still a ton of supply to get through. I imagine as this box gets closer to like $200, you'll probably see more people come to market and try and list their boxes. And it is unfortunate because I do think there are some interesting cards in the set. I'm not really a huge fan of the Rayleigh manga. I like Rayleigh as a character, but that being the top chase around $500, maybe it's close to like $800 now. Still not great. The SPs though are fairly solid. I love the Ace. I think the Bonnie's fine. Pudding as well. Luffy Treasure Rare. Like those are some solid supporting cards, but just nothing up top. Not worth getting. Avoid 2 Legends. Next up, PRB01. I think I'm still going to have to put this in crack tier. I don't really love this though. I think it's probably going to be at the back of the tier by the time we get to the end of this video. There are a lot of great things going for PRB01. That's why I just picked up a case of it. You have the God Pack in there in English, which is amazing. You also have the Gold Dawns, which I think if those ever start to move, you're going to have a lot more depth. You have some solid alternate art cards like the Gear 5 Luffy. I believe there is a boa in there and maybe even a Shirahoshi, which is currently playable or something. So lots of solid depth in this set, but the rise of OP09, the rise of EB02, the rise of OP11, there are a lot more sets getting close to PRB01. And just because there are some cheaper options out there, I think I'm going to put a couple boxes higher than PRB01 on this ranking, even though this is a 5-year outlook video. And one of those boxes is going to be OP09, Emperors in the New World. Even at $700, guys, when we look 5 years into the future, this is going to be a cracked investment. I'm actually going to put OP09 in front of OP05. I know the set is a year younger. In my eyes, it still could be reprinted, but I think 5 years from now, it's really not going to matter. You have the Gold Roger manga. Outside of that, you have the Luffy manga, which is continuing to rise. Same thing with the Shanks. And who knows what's going to happen towards the end game of One Piece with characters like Shanks and Blackbeard. So having those mangas in the set, I think is just an added bonus and a little bit of a hedge against what happens with the end of the story. Now after that, Royal Blood, not really too much to say here. This is going in the 2 Legends tier as well. I'm going to put it in front of 2 Legends. I think there is something to be said for the set and the SPs in here. I really like the Whitebeard. I like the Sanji as well. Ace Treasure Rare, cool. This Luffy parallel is continuing to run up in price, but the Law manga, it's the second Law manga, so it is a lot cheaper, around $660 currently. I think in a 10, It's like what, $1,600, $1,500, maybe even a little bit less than that at this point. Just not a ton of value up top, and for those reasons, it's always going to be towards the bottom of the list in my eyes. Now, after that, EB02, this is a really interesting one because the play here, I feel, is based a lot on the gold leader cards and their scarcity. Outside those, sure, the Gear 2 manga Luffy is great. The alt art leader Luffy is amazing as well. I just don't know what the market's going to be like in the future for a lot of those gold leader cards. In my opinion, they're really not that great of artworks. I know that they're scarce. People are going to want to collect them. For me, it's something that I couldn't see myself having in my collection. That said though, it is an extra booster. I highly doubt we get more boxes of this, and those gold leaders are probably going to retain a lot of their value, if not even continue to climb in the future. So I think you have to put this fairly high on the list. I don't know if I can put it in cracked tier. I mean, it's probably right at the back of cracked tier. You could probably even make an argument to put it in mid tier at this point, considering these boxes are like $700, which is just wild, but I'm gonna leave it there for now. I think I'm happy with that. Now, OP11, I'm actually gonna put this fairly high on the list, and this might surprise some people. I'm currently going to put this in front of PRB01. I know, insane. I do think these are very close though, these two sets right here. This to me is just because OP11 is fairly cheap at this point compared to PRB01. I know I say fairly cheap, the box is like what, 3x MSRP right now, but compared to all the other top sets, it is fairly cheap. It is starting to move though. We have sales close to $400 today. I think it could continue. I think we could meme this box up to like $500 in the short term. I mean, why not? In practice, the top 10 value is getting fairly close to $10,000. A lot of that is, of course, in the gold and silver Luffy's, but even the Luffy manga is over $1,000 ungraded at this point, and that's one of the more difficult manga cards to get in a PSA 10 or even a BGS 10. So I think these are very close in my eyes. You could probably go either way. I think long term, it's going to be a great box. I could definitely see it being $1,000 plus in the future, 5 years from now. So I'm happy with that. Now OP12, I'm going to put this in mid tier because I think it's a really mid set. I don't think it's a world beater, but I also like a lot of the cards in OP12. And if you're buying the box fairly cheap, again, I bought my case about a month ago when it was around, I don't know, $110 USD, I think is what I paid. You don't really have a ton of downside. The other beauty with a set like OP12 and even OP11 to an extent currently is if there are serious reprints, I don't think these are going to be top priorities. You would consider something like OP13, maybe even an OP09 if they do want to go back that far. We've already had restocks of 12 and 11, so I think that's kind of off the table. Long term, you do have the Blackbeard gold and silver cards in the set, which again, depending on how the story plays out, what role Blackbeard plays, I think they could be potentially more expensive in the future. Of course, you have the Bonnie manga that's around $800. You have some cool SPs, and I like the alt arts such as Demon Aura 9-sword style, Asura Blades drawn, Dead Man's Game. So somewhere in the mid tier, I'll put it above OP06. I think that is fine. PRB02, I love the opening experience of PRB02. Kind of reminds me of Crown Zenith in Pokemon, where it's not a top tier set. You don't have those crazy expensive chase cards, but it's super fun to open. You get a ton of hits. It's a premium booster, which means Bandai probably not going to go back and reprint it, especially considering where we are right now with some of these other boxes like OP13. I'm going to put it at the front of mid, and I'm kind of kicking myself for not making another tier kind of between cracked and mid at this point, just because I feel like you could put a few of these boxes kind of above the rest of mid tier. So just know when you're looking at this list that I do believe this line is kind of in order from best to worst in the tier. Now after that, OP13, goated. There really is nothing to say here about this set. It's the best thing that Bandai has ever released. There's always going to be value in those top cards. I think too, if Bandai does print heavy, you could be seeing a drop in card quality. And if that happens, it's going to be more difficult to get 10s, and then the current 10s, right, from the original print wave are going to retain their value much better, which means the boxes in general are probably going to retain their value. So those are just my thoughts. We will see how OP13 plays out, but I think 5 years from now, it's really not going to matter even if they do fairly large scale reprints. OP14, I'm going to put this somewhere in the middle as well. Let's put it in front of EB01. And honestly, you could probably even put a couple more boxes in front of EB01. Actually, you know what? I'm going to put EB01 right beside Pillars of Strength just because my reasoning for both of these is basically the same. But OP14, you're going to have some meta cards in there. I think that's fine. I also like the SPs. The Mihawk manga is also interesting as well. Probably going to be fairly expensive. It's not going to be a massive chase card. All signs, in my opinion, are pointing to this being a middle of the road set. Even with the buggy gold and silvers, I just don't think that you're going to have enough value to kind of push this into the high mid tier to low A tier, if that makes sense. If you're buying this at MSRP or close to MSRP, I think it is kind of a no-brainer, in my opinion. I'm personally holding off on buying OP14 right now. I'm hoping that I can get some decent prices after a release, and if not, I will be happy to put that money into the final set, which is going to be the EB03 Heroines Edition. This is the waifu set, Gunner set of all Gunner sets. I don't know how high I can put this on the list, even 5 years into the future. It really is going to be one of those products that depends a lot on the print run and how many boxes are out there. I think a lot of people will chase the waifu cards out the gate, but 5 years from now, is this really going to be the set that a lot of people want to open? And also, you have to remember too, what are you buying this box at currently? I'm just going to leave it here so I can go over to the pre-orders on TCG Player. Around $320 currently. I know people can find this box cheaper than that, but still, even if you're paying like $250 a box, how well is this going to perform by 2031? I mean, a lot of that probably will depend on how many of the boxes actually end up getting ripped. I'm going to put it probably really close to the top of mid-tier. I know some people would probably put it higher, but again, it is those like 4 SPs. You have the Boa, the Nami, the Robin, and then maybe throw the Uta in there, a couple other ones, and then the Uta manga. I don't know. I think it'll do well, but it's definitely not going to be the A-tier investment or the S-tier investment that a lot of people expect it to be. That's just my opinion. I'm open to being wrong. That's fine. Like, I've been wrong before. And I think the more important thing too is that I still rank it in the top kind of half of sets that have been released. And in my opinion, the top half of sets probably worth having some exposure to. The bottom half of sets, sure, they'll do well over 5 years. You're going to see growth on them. Some of them could surprise us as well, like Pillars of Strength, just because there's not a ton of boxes out there. So who knows? Like, maybe that runs up like crazy. But the top sets are a top set for a reason, because they have solid chase cards. Give it time. Let the market do its thing. You're going to do well on these. If you guys disagree with anything on this list, of course, let me know in the comments down below. Don't take these videos too seriously either. At the end of the day, it's just some entertainment, and it's fun to look back on these in a few years just to see which predictions were right and which ones were wrong, and also just kind of to record at least my thought process when I'm going through this. So thank you guys so much for watching the video. Hopefully you guys can find some good deals. Hopefully you can get EB03 and OP14 at MSRP or close to MSRP if you're trying to open some product. I would love to open OP14 and probably even some EB03, but if it's going to be $250, $300 out the gate, I'm probably not going to touch it. With all that said, thank you so much for watching the video. Stay safe wherever you are in the world, and I'll catch you in the next one.